Explain myself.
Louisiana shit. Murder on the beat. Something for y'all to cut up to, you know? Yeah.
I think that listening skills, we really focused on listening in this training and developing more on that. Listening to the emotions, because it's something that I didn't do with conscious, and now I feel that I'm more prepared to do it. I still have a lot to learn, of course, but it's something that I want to learn more.
The skill I developed most was probably insights into myself. It's not necessarily a skill, but it was very interesting. The skill I'm going to use is the skill to use mindfulness more in my trainings.
For me, this training gave me more active listening. Don't be afraid to show me my authenticity.
The skills that I develop the most is that I make reality check for where I am. For example, where I am with my developing, with my growth, with my experience in the field of a youth worker, what I have like the expertise in the field of the facilitator.
I think deep connection or deep listening, let's say, the deep listening skills when we're doing some of the methodologies with Mark. It was very interesting skill and I want to further develop it. So it was one of the most amazing ones because it's not just listening, it's listening with intent and the types of listening that we do.
So today we had an exercise with the chairs where we had to arrange them in we were 3 teams and each team had a different task and we had to do it without talking with the others. And at first it was so messy, but after that we kind of learned that we need to collaborate. We can all work together. So this is kind of an exercise that I would use in my trainings in the future.
I think it's the mindfulness exercise, mindfulness practices that we also developed in the first day, I think it was. Because this is something that maybe at first I was a bit like, not skeptical, but this like, oh, mindfulness, what is this hippie stuff? But it's actually very, not enlightening, but very useful, especially in today's world with all this overwhelming emotions and overwork and, I don't know, this burnout that's going on with the young people and even the workers. So it's a practice that will be very fruitful.
I'm most excited to use mindfulness in my trainings, as in I don't do that yet because I sometimes feel like it might be too spiritual for my participants. But in this case, I think I've seen some very useful tools to do it in a quite down-to-earth way.
Actually, I have 2 exercises. One of them was the sharing group about the tools and resources that many people use in their facilitator role. Also the 5 phases, the journaling, also the storming, it makes all sense. And then in the end of the training course, we did a test of happiness. Is an exercise that you are being grateful to other person that you have in your life. And it's really important to do that.
The one thing that I'm very excited is to use the emotional intelligence card games to implement in Bulgaria, because we sure for our local area the mental health topic is very popular, so I think we'll be very well untouched there.
One moment when I was outside of my comfort zone was yesterday. We talked about group dynamics and talking about the forming, norming, storming phase really stormed out. And I felt like I didn't want to participate anymore. It was nice that we had a break. I tried to go back to how I was before that, so that I can still take a lot from this training, because it would have been such a shame.
I think one of the moments I felt a bit out of my comfort zone was when we were doing the deep listening and we're taking turns of sharing stuff. And I found myself sharing something that was very deep for me, so I was being very vulnerable. But it felt like I was seen. So it's something that I was like, I enjoy it. So this vulnerability doesn't have to be like, oh, something I need to not to protect it, but that I felt I can be open and validated for who I was. So it was something very interesting. There were 3 people looking at me and genuinely seemed concerned, and also asking questions and telling things, like also what I said, like repeating it. So that was something that was very fruitful. So it's also part of the listening, the deep listening, when we reflect back what they said, or we see like what the emotions were, or even if it's something that could be created or in the future, or where is it coming from.
I felt most out of my comfort zone during an exercise where chairs had to be, well, moved in different patterns. And I noticed my team was behaving very differently than I would behave on my own. And I try to adapt, but it's very interesting to see how loyalty to a team can conflict with your own interests. I do have a different behavior pattern than some people. And that's also very hard to break your own patterns.
Yeah, that exercise, appreciation letters, for me, show me my emotions with the people that I care most is a challenge exercise. I was out of my comfort zone, even that I cared, I love the people, I never said that I love them. So yeah, to my mom. So that was my first time saying that. Maybe in the adult phase, I was in the first time saying that, yeah, mom, I love you. So that exercise was completely changed for me, and to her as well.
The moment I felt very out of my comfort zone, that I cried, I showed my emotions very in front of everyone, and I think this was the very out of my comfort zone. It's good to recognize your emotions, and it's good to be vulnerable sometimes in a safe environment that actually Erasmus trainings created. So
It was really amazing. I met a lot of nice people. To be honest, it was different from what I expected, although I came without expectations, but I had a few. Maybe a bit too slow-paced, but it's just my taste. But I have to do a lot of reflecting after this week, and I'm sure that there are some learning points that I still need to find.
It was a very interesting and resourceful training. I feel I've learned a lot and even reinforced some of the material and content that I knew. And I really loved it, genuinely. I wish it was a bit longer, but...
I think it was a lovely group. There was a lot of support between the trainers and the group, and also in the group itself. There was content, there was theoretical content, there was emotional content, there were exercises focused on just creating a safe space for everyone to learn whatever they wanted to learn. So there was a lot of different strategies in one training course.
Everyone should take this training course. Yes, at least just grow up as a person, individual person, not for the professional way, not be a trainer or a facilitator, just to grow in every sense, yeah.
I have mixed emotions because it was a roller coaster of emotions, but for my opinion, it has a very great, well designed and how it actually go, and the people was selected very well.